Hi, and thanks for joining us today here at Makers Machining. My name is Tim, and I'll be taking you on a course basically through the how-tos and what-fors for machining. The name of our course here is Makers Machining, and that's kind of founded on the idea that's lately been out there for schools to have makers labs, is what they're called, where people can come in and use the facility at the school to work on their own private projects. Also, in conjunction with that, if we do the Makers Lab or that type of thing, this is also for people who are interested in learning more about machining, maybe for your job, maybe for schooling. You might be a hobbyist or just a home mechanic that wants to have some way to make and repair parts that you might have on different things that you have at home. So there's a lot of people that are interested in machining, and as everybody knows, the last 20 years there hasn't been a whole lot done as far as through schools to have vocational training for students, and at the same time manufacturing companies have not done much with apprenticeships or training employees to come in and do the critical work that they need done. And now, if you have been listening to the news, there's a lot of job openings, and there's opportunities for people now to come and get into machining positions. But when you get in there, you need to have a little bit of an idea what's going on, and I would like to just go through in these. We're going to have a number of different courses that we talk about different aspects of machining. So in the next courses that we do, or videos that we do here on YouTube, we're going to show you some of the basic steps to take as you're doing various kinds of machining. It's kind of like learning the alphabet before you learn how to read. There's many facets to machining, and I've been in the business for a long time, and I'd like to share some of the basic steps that you need to know on making parts and how you're going to get the machine to do an accurate job for you. The tendency now is to get a guy to come in and get a little training and stick him on a CNC machine where he operates a machine, and maybe if he's ambitious and wants to take some training and learn how to program the machine, after you've been running a machine like that for a while, you might get to make some adjustments in the control on the machine, but probably not anything writing programs. So the basic very beginning points of what those machines do, whether they're manual machines, which we'll be focusing on for starters, and the CNC machines, the same principles apply in how you do the work and how you approach the work, because you need to set the part up in the machine, hold it and fixture it properly, and use the right tools and cutters and whatnot to make your part. So I am more than happy to share that information with you. I've taught the machine shop class at a local junior college where I'm at, and most of the students were already in the working world, but they just wanted to find out a little bit more about machining. And I was more than happy to help show them the way on a few things, and it gave me great pleasure when somebody would come back to school at the next class period and said, "Hey, what you showed me last week, I used that at work today, and that really helped." So, taking the machine shop classes like this and just giving you some information, and if you have access to machine tools, lathes, mills, saws, grinders, that type of thing, drill presses, we'll work with you to show you some of the different steps along the way, which will make you more valuable as an employee to the company you work for. If you're still a student and you're working your way through classes with the goal of being in manufacturing somehow or engineering, man, these are invaluable steps to take to learn how to make parts. Now, it's not just machining, it's setting up the machine, making a plan, reading blueprints. There's just a number of different aspects just to have the basic knowledge to make parts. And oftentimes we've said, you know, if engineers would only spend a couple years in a machine shop, it would make it a lot better for them in how they convey the information on what they are working on designing to the guy that's got to make the parts for them, which would be us. So, you know, oftentimes we'll have engineers that draw things up, and we'll have to call them up and say, hey, you know, what do you mean by this? Or you're missing a dimension, or some of the cuts are, you know, or the tolerances are, you know, virtually impossible to hold. How critical do you need these parts? So we have a real working relationship with some of the people that use the parts that we make. And so we have a lot of different customers and companies that we work with, and it's an effort that you have to share with them. And again, if you're getting into the working world, or you're at a place where they need somebody to make special parts, or, you know, maybe there's a breakdown, and if you can figure out and show them how to fix that part, you're gonna be golden in their eyes. So it's a win-win situation for you to learn and understand some of these things. So I'm more than willing to, and I really enjoy teaching people how to do some of these basic things. I mentioned before that there's many aspects to machining, many facets to it, and I'm gonna try to make a library of videos here that you can pull on, that, you know, if we start talking about something about a milling machine, for example, which you see one right behind me here. If we're talking about milling machines, you know, in making parts, you also have to measure them. You maybe have a blueprint, or you are making a sketch for yourself or somebody else to work from. You know, there's ways that you can make a sketch and prints and whatnot that are going to give all the information, and do it in a way that you or somebody else can understand what's being required. Now, as I was saying, we're going to get a library of different topics to go on, because we might be talking about milling machines, and then we get into measuring, and you're going to say, oh man, how do I measure this stuff? I'm working with a caliper or a micrometer or a depth mic. You know, we can beat ourselves up quite a while, and you can get bogged down in measuring or understanding decimals and fractions, and there's decimal equivalent charts that show the size drills to use if you're going to tap, which is threading a hole. You know, so we can get bogged down in a lot of those topics, and so I want to try to keep these clips short enough that you can see what the topic is. We'll talk about it. We'll touch on other things. Then you might be interested in doing lathe work. So you still need to have a print. You still need to have a sketch. You still need to understand dimensions and tolerances and decimal equivalents and drill and tap sizes, that type of thing. Whether you're on the milling machine or the lathe, it doesn't matter. All this information I want to start out with is going to give you the basic understanding of making a piece of a product or a part that you might need, whether it's out of steel, stainless steel, brass, wood, plastic, you name it. All those things still apply. You have to get things measured, have to make them, they have to fit properly. We may talk about the correct materials to use for different applications. I mean, that's called metallurgy. If you're talking about steel parts, what is the correct grade of steel to use for a shaft, for example? You know, there's different grades of metal out there that are stronger or harder or whatever. We haven't even talked about tooling that's used to produce products, whether it's in molds or stampings, or, you know, anything that needs a cutting tool. We haven't even talked about that yet. So there's an awful lot of things that we can go over and we'll break these down into short little segments so you have a good handle on where to find an answer. Maybe, I mean, that's half the battle too, is you have a question or somebody has a question, where do you get the answer from? Well, we're going to work on that. So if you can bear with me here as we go through these things here, this is our first recording, and I'd like to get this going and ask you to subscribe to this, pass the word around. I'm not here to be telling you how much or how to do things and only you know it. I want everybody to be able to access this, because it's been so long since anybody's had training in this area of trades. It's really sad. So companies are hurting for people right now, especially in machining and tool making and that type of thing. It's like any other trade. It takes a while to learn a trade, whether you're a carpenter, a pipe fitter, welder, whatever. Machining's the same way. There's so much to learn. You can't absorb everything. That's why I want to try to get a library of different videos going that, if we're talking about a milling machine and you want to look into lathe work a little bit, you can jump over and do that. It's going to take a little while to make a few videos that covers everything, but that's the goal. So if you stick with me here, and we'll get a following going here. I really want to help people learn the basics here. So that's where we're starting with. We've had a lot to talk about, going from ground zero to today's latest technology, which I've seen it all. I'm lucky I've done it the old school way with manual machines, and now everything has gone to computerized stuff in a lot of cases. So we'll be able to see that transition in our discussions here too. And yeah, it may take a little while to pick up on this or that, but believe me, you'll get the full story on both ends of the spectrum. A lot of people now, they come into the work world, they get put on a machine, and they're an operator. And there's a whole lot more to machining than being an operator. So we're going to try to get a good well-rounded explanation for you. So I'm looking forward to working with you. Please subscribe to the site, and if you have questions, put them in the comment box, and we'll probably have a lot of questions. I'll try to maybe give some general comments in future videos, so you can see the answers to your questions. I may be able to answer directly to you. Let's just see how it goes. But sit down and enjoy the ride. We've got a lot of neat stuff, and I'll be telling you some of the stories of my experiences as we go along, because I've been at it for a long time. So I've seen a lot of stuff over the years. I have been working in a job shop, so we do anything for anybody. Most companies, everything that's out there is made somewhere. If you look around the house or the yard or where you work, school, everything where you are has been made by somebody at some facility, and it's the jobs of the engineers and the machinists and the tool makers and the prototype makers to make these parts so they work properly, so they're efficient, they serve their right purpose, they work to the intended use, and then the engineer's job is to make sure that they get it down to where they can produce it in such a way that it's economical for the consumer to use. So there's a lot to talk about. So I'm looking forward to spending time with you and get this all out in front of you, so you can see what's there for you in life. So anyhow, again, welcome to Makers Machining. My name's Tim, and we'll be talking to you off and on here. Subscribe so you can keep with the updates, and we'll be good to go. Take her easy, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.